Next up in the wooden chair, I'm going to be speaking to Laszlo Varro. Laszlo is a Hungarian national who's worked in the IEA since 2011, has been named the agency's new chief economist. Varro is leading the Economics and Investment Office, or EIO, if you will, and I certainly will. It's a newly created group within the IEA that aims to provide sound and consistent energy economics and methodological support for the agency's work. Laszlo, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. Well, it's the EIO inside the IEA. Can you tell us in two quick sentences what it is that you guys are focusing on in this new department within the organization?
Well, in general, the International Energy Agency is focusing on helping our partner countries making better decisions on energy, safeguarding energy security while increasing the role of clean energy in the energy system. And as a chief economist of the IEA, my job is to help this work with sound economics and investment analysis.
Cool. Well, then let me dive into an energy question. You know, solar has recently become the cheapest source of energy, and I wonder how can renewables like solar, wind, water, how can that kind of progress be implemented and scaled across societies?
Well, it is already implemented at scale. So renewable investment currently is running at the speed of $300 billion per year. So this is now big business. If you run the numbers for the windmills and solar panels deployed every year, that they generate under normal weather conditions around 300 terawatt hours of electricity annually. That's like a medium-sized European country's electricity consumption, which is coming from new windmills and new solar panels into the power system. However, this is only half of the growth of global electricity consumption. So at this level of investment, renewables succeed in slowing down the growth of fossil fuels, but we are not yet on track for a clean energy system.
Well, let me dig a little deeper than in that. You know, talking with Mika Antonin yesterday, and we were talking a bit about within the big fossil fuel companies, the big oil and gas companies, there have been these small renewable departments, and in the beginning they were sort of the unloved bastard children that lived in the Harry Potter annex, but now they get bigger and bigger. Are the big companies taking it seriously now, or are the big companies going to be the dinosaurs that die?
No, the past 2 years we have witnessed a remarkable strategic shift in the large energy companies. That included episodes like the annual shareholder assembly of ExxonMobil, where the majority of Exxon shareholders voted for Exxon to have a comprehensive assessment of climate policy and decarbonization in their investment strategy. Now, some large oil companies invest in technologies like solar panels and batteries, but those are quite far away from the industry's core technological strengths, and it's a very tough competition with companies like Samsung and Panasonic. So the typical approach in the oil and gas industry to focus on those clean energy technologies which are close to the technology skill set of the industry. And that would be energy efficiency, that would be advanced biofuels, that would be carbon capture, various hydrogen-based pathways. Those technologies will play a significant role in the clean energy system, and they rely on the type of mechanical engineering and chemical engineering skills where the traditional energy companies are very good at.
Well, it sounds like, according to what you're saying, a lot of the revolution, or evolution, depending on how fast it's going, is coming from within these companies themselves. What's the best role for government to play? What's the best relationship between government and the private sector to make these changes happen and to slow down climate change?
Well, governments play a critically important role in 3 areas. One is frontier research and development and innovation. There, the private sector plays an absolutely indispensable role in deploying the already mature technologies, but solar panels started their career in space research. Wind energy very strongly benefited from the research and development that governments funded for the aviation industry and so on. So we think that governments have a key role in promoting innovation. Also, governments have a key role in driving the infrastructure development. Things like building a new offshore cable network under the North Sea to facilitate the development of offshore wind. China has a very large infrastructure program to the sparsely populated western provinces where there is plenty of wind, plenty of sunshine, but you have to take the electricity out. So infrastructure development is another core government role. And last but not least, the most successful renewable policies have been the long-term capacity auctions, when there is competition among the renewable project developers, which drives cost efficiency and innovation. But when you win an auction, you sign a long-term contract with a government-mandated entity in order to facilitate project financing of the renewable projects, and that's also a very important role for public policy.
Can you think of any places where government has pushed too hard, had too firm a hand, and actually screwed things up?
Well, there have been, of course, plenty of successes and plenty of failures. I think one interesting phenomenon is that some of the most intelligent, most sophisticated policy designs are no longer in European countries. Emerging economies like Mexico or Brazil or India have very intelligent, very thoughtful policy designs promoting clean energy, and they are achieving some quite promising results.
And do you think these solutions coming from these emerging markets and these emerging economies, do you think they are coming because the folks see economic opportunity, they want to make the money, or are they going like, hey, we're killing ourselves here, we got to clean up?
Well, it's a combination of the two. Certainly, the technological progress which reduced the cost of wind and solar power is a game changer. So it is European countries who pioneered expensive renewables, but once renewable technology became mature, then you can go to places where the geographical conditions are far better, like the sunshine in the deserts of northern Mexico or the wind in the Atlantic coast of Brazil. There you combine the good natural conditions with the mature renewable technologies, and the result is unbeatable. But also, both climate change and also air pollution is an increasing political concern in emerging economies. Cities like Beijing, Delhi, or Mexico City have a very difficult air pollution problem, and that is increasingly a major political driver of clean energy.
It must be. It's nice to be in a country where there's weather change happening. It affects the country, and the government of the country wants to change.
Yes.
That's not the case where I come from originally. So yesterday, Mika mentioned that sometimes organizations will present a scenario where, like, oh, we have to avoid this much change, like 2 degrees of global warming is what he was talking about, but that turned into a miscalculation and it sent the wrong message. Do you have that sort of concern about a governmental organization sending out the wrong message when it has a specific number, a specific prediction?
Well, from our point of view, we don't try to reinvent the wheel in climate science. So we take the consensus of climate science and we translate that to energy fundamentals. So we run the numbers for certain carbon budgets and our most ambitious pathway is a carbon budget of 750 billion tons, which would be essentially a strict and ambitious implementation of the Paris Climate Agreement, and essentially reaching a fully decarbonized clean energy system by the middle of the century. We did the detailed technology analysis for such a pathway. It is technologically feasible, but it is outside the current political comfort zone.
Understood.
So certainly governments have to do more to get there.
Well, let me ask you one last question, and I think it's a comfort zone question, which is, how do you take the lessons where you are and spread them around to other markets, to other countries?
Well, we are an international organization which is opening the doors. Originally, the IE was set up for the OECD countries, so Western Europe, United States, Canada, Japan. In the past 2 years, the core of our activity has been to bring in the key emerging countries into the IE family. So now we have an association agreement with China, an association agreement with India. Just this week, the Brazilian government announced that they signed an association agreement with the IEA. We have a joint work program with these countries, a permanent office in Beijing. So we engage with the energy ministries, we engage with the leading universities, and we also engage with the private sector in these countries.
Laszlo, that's fantastic and that's exciting. It's great to see this good work spreading all around. I'm afraid that's all the time we have, so I want to thank you very much for joining me here, and you enjoy the rest of the event. It's running out, so go spread yourself around.